Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. Got a few things to address today, including some exciting news on Darwin Nunez. But first on Ten Hag, talk about that situation, what's happening there before we get into the transfer side of things. What I'm told quite well is that there's really no issues with him at the moment. There's no problems. There's just a lot of stories filling the space in while they wait to make things official. And I think there's a bit of recycling of news when it comes to concerns. I actually wrote the following in Discord on March 25th. It said both manager prospects would like clarity on what specifically their role entails with the club, how it would work with management, how it would work with Rangnick and his role, and how it would work with the proposed deputy director of football. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the areas where Ten Hag won the job over Pochettino in discussions, interviews, and in the overall process. It was, I think, Hurst or someone else who's very good who reported that Ten Hag fit the profile of a modern coach in the modern structure better, where he would be happy to be doing most of his work on the pitch with the players and not so much having to spend all his time kind of doing the broad shoot work on recruitment. And that really is the modern structure that United are moving towards. It's the same at Liverpool, at Chelsea, at Man City, at any of the big clubs these days. The manager has obviously a say, but the modern structure does not give managers control. And I've said this many times. People keep getting the impression we've got to give the manager now control of all his recruitment in order to have success, but it's quite the opposite. Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer all had way too much influence on the recruitment process to make good decisions for the long term. It needs to be focused on a club idea. That doesn't mean the manager doesn't suit it. It does mean, however, that the recruitment is done based on a style that the manager fits into as well, and the manager has a say. Now, that's not a problem. Someone has seemingly spread a bit of the idea that Ten Hag wants 100% control, and that is not true. Ten Hag wants a say in transfers like any manager gets. He doesn't want players forced on him that he doesn't want. He doesn't want to say, oh, you have to have this player and play him. He wants only players that he'd be happy to put into the side and to utilize. And he wants to have, obviously, a say in who is signed or who is prioritized on the short list that will be provided by the scouts, analysts, deputy director, etc. Even in a modern structure, managers have sway, and even if they officially don't have all the power, they do have influence. And if they start to show aptitude and they're getting results on the pitch, they get even more influence. And that's where it comes down to a Ten Hag. He will have a say in this. He will have influence in the transfers. He will be able to say, okay, here's your list. I would prefer someone like this so I can spend a bit more here, so I can do a bit more there. He's going to have that influence as long as it's within the confines of what the club structure want, what the football structure want, and what they've identified as needs. So right now I think there's really just two minor things that they're sorting out while waiting for things to just become official in the right timing. One of those is that Ralf Rangnick's role is still changing, his future role. The recent run of poor form at United and him as manager, where I think he's frankly made a lot of errors, and it's not all on him. There's a lot of reasons for it. We talked about the fact that they lost all the coaches. There was an article that came out from Laurie Whitwell at The Athletic talking about this, how McKenna, Carrick, and Martin Pert departing was not part of Rangnick's plans. He wanted to work with them so that there wouldn't be a huge upheaval in the club and they could kind of bunker down. He was not able to get his first choice coaches, one of them who was Jesse March, who has now taken over the Leeds United manager job from Bielsa. So a bit of a mess there, and the result is right now you're just not seeing good results, and you're not seeing any sort of results on the pitch. The coaching is subpar, the planning is subpar, the management is subpar, the players are obviously not buying in, and it is what it is. There's a lot of blame to go around on that. But he's not earning a lot of influence at the club. And some of the issues with players like Marcus Rashford have not reflected well on him. Rashford is one the next manager will be tasked with resolving and getting back on track. Don't forget that this is a player who was named maybe last summer, as one of the top 5 players in the world in value based on the length of his contract and where he was at as a player with his age. It was named that he was worth 150, 200 million. He's had a very bad season, but he has not really been done any favors as well with all of the changes. Prior to this, nobody had really ever claimed that Marcus Rashford wasn't tenacious, that he didn't work hard, didn't fight for the badge, or wasn't aggressive enough. So, any talk of that is just unrealistic as of now, even if he is wildly out of form and struggling. And realistically, the club have kind of counter-briefed. They want to extend his contract, get him back on track, or at least retain, again, that top 5 player in the world value. Not top 5 player in the world, but top 5 player in the world value that they had before. There's 150 million down the drain in terms of value lost if Marcus Rashford does not get back on track. And so that is something that the club will think with, the football structure thinking with. It's a huge asset. And it's not been impressive, him having problems with Rangnick. I don't think that carries over to Ten Hag at all. I think Ten Hag will love him. I think it's going to go very well with him. I think he's going to really be back on track. And I do think he'll get a new contract as well. Maybe not right during summer, but potentially after the start of the year once Ten Hag has gotten some work with him. So as his role is changing, the question will be asked specifically, who's the deputy director of football? What involvement do they have? And what say does Ralf have in recruitment and such as an advisor? Ten Hag will want clarity on that, but it's not something that's going to prevent a deal from occurring. And then the other thing is coaches. It sounds like Rene Meulensteen is committed to Australia, even though he was asked about the job. It's now been reported that, which I mentioned back March 27th before anybody else. He was asked about the job, and it sounds like he's committed to Australia. It's not to say he might not be open to joining afterwards, but they have a playoff before the World Cup, and I think he'll want to see it through. Maybe he could join in January if they miss out, but it sounds like for now it's a no. The problem is as well, you have Robin van Persie, who has issues with a work permit, and it's yet to sound like there's a solution there, but maybe in due time, maybe there's money, maybe there's a deal that can be made that makes that happen. The other option is Steve McLaren. That's been mentioned, though we'll see on that one. We'll see. I don't have much I can say about that right now. But these are the things they're working through, and regardless, the deal is never going to be announced before the Cup final, and I believe it's essentially agreed. Really, it's just things that can be worked out, and a lot of media filling the empty space with stories right now. So that's really where it's at. I think be patient. Like Ornstein said, nothing's happening before the Cup final. Next week, I expect it'll probably kick off. Maybe the 20th, the day after Liverpool. It'd be a good time to announce a new manager at that time, or that there's a deal agreed. I think that's an opportune time to distract from what inevitably looks like a bad game on the horizon. Okay? So moving on to transfers, there's really one new story. Really only one major transfer story at the moment, the biggest news right now, and one I've been banging on about for months, which is Darwin Nunez. David Ornstein reported Manchester United are one of the 3 main teams in the lead for him, along with Chelsea and PSG. My understanding is that Chelsea are very unlikely given their current situation and because of the striker spending they've already done. They're not likely to get any value out of Romelu Lukaku at the moment or move him on. They've got Timo Werner. They have a lot of options, and they're just unlikely to make that signing. PSG are looking at Amin Gouiri. They want that. They have Paul Pogba on their radar. They've got other priorities, so I think, based on that, you could almost assume that Manchester United is the first on the list. Now, I have a bit of first-hand knowledge of this. It's something I had to keep quiet. I put it in a small section of Discord almost a month ago, but I did mention it in a prior video that there were issues with the agent. And now what you've seen come out is that Darwin Nunez is making the switch to Jorge Mendes. And my understanding of the matter is that Darwin's former representative was working closely with Atletico and had discussions with them. However, one of the main reasons he's made the switch to Jorge Mendes is specifically to get a move to England. Now, Atletico are in the position where they need to probably sell to buy a striker, and that puts them back a little bit. But I also believe, again, that he made the switch specifically to get a move to England, and I heard this pretty much firsthand. So my understanding of the matter is he feels Mendes would be able to get him to Manchester specifically, where he has a direct line and a bit of influence at the moment, and has obviously worked deals with us in the past, at the present, and likely in the future. So I believe he'd be accepted by Ten Hag as well. It's absolutely been discussed by the club internally. They met with his prior agent. They talk with Mendes fairly regularly, and I believe they already understand exactly what kind of deal it would take. Deals in Portugal often, are nicely structured. 60 million euros plus add-ons, I believe, is what would get it done. Kind of similar to Luis Diaz, who has, I think, 50 million euros plus add-ons. There's still a lot that has to go right for something like this to happen. I'm not saying that because of this that it means there's a done deal, but I really rate United's chances on it. He's a phenomenal player. He wants to come to England. He fits the league. They're interested in him. A young striker is the priority. I think, like I mentioned in the last video, you could probably move Harry Kane down the list, especially as Tottenham look like they're getting Champions League. I don't think you'd have to get Champions League to bring Darwin Nunez in. I think getting Europa League, presenting a good deal, a good project is more important to him than that. Look, it's not that this is set to happen, but there's a lot of things pointing towards a potential deal happening. He's a phenomenal player. He has some shortcomings, but one of the biggest pluses reported by those who work around him and know him personally is his attitude and drive is killer. He's a killer mentality. He will learn, he will listen, he will adjust, and he will work his ass off. And I think that's what we need more than anything else. It'd probably be my favorite signing and most wanted post Sir Alex, since ironically Bruno Fernandes, and that turned out well. So otherwise it's a little quiet. Let's let the manager stuff calm down and get settled, and more recruitment will come clear. We do have a special interview coming out on Thursday night or Friday morning that will be done on the podcast, as well as cut up into videos posted on the YouTube channel, with someone who has been very close to the Ten Hag deal and has some direct knowledge of it and what's happening, and will be able to provide some fantastic insight on the situation, what's transpired, as well as what United plan to do this summer. So make sure to look out for that Thursday night or Friday, okay? That's all I've got for today, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video.